Yo, welcome back to another episode of the Don and Don Tech Show. What's going on, Don?
What's going on, Don? What we got in store today?
What we got in store today is pretty much, do you remember when you were younger, there was no technology in class, man? I didn't have a tablet. I didn't have a laptop. Man, I was lucky to have a phone to call my mom in case of an emergency.
We had those the projectors where it's basically a light on a piece of paper and then shown up to a mirror and bounced it onto and so you would draw on a piece of paper and it would project it. Do you remember those things?
I do remember that. Now, audience, if you're too young to remember that, that's okay. Me and both Don, we have about a quarter century on us, okay? So don't worry about that. Now, I want to show you guys this little small clip right here, over here across in the EU. Sweden, Denmark, Switzerland, a couple of those countries specifically are changing course. They're going back to pen and paper. They're taking away the screens. They're taking away the tablets. And they're just going back to some real analog style of learning.
2026. There's no digital whiteboard and no laptops either. Students say they can feel the benefits.
When you have a phone,
you turn up a bit.
There's always something to look at, and it's a huge distraction.
Sweden is seen as a world leader in tech innovation and has one of the most digitally advanced education systems in the world. Now, Sweden's government is investing around $80 million to purchase physical textbooks for classrooms.
Sweet salt. And so that was very interesting to me that one of the world's leaders in digital technology is going back to the basics. They're bringing back pen and paper. They're bringing back actually reading, actually writing. And guys, this is what's so interesting to me. Let's go ahead and get into the slideshow. Welcome back to that.
It was really interesting to hear them say buying textbooks as if they didn't have any to begin with.
That's very interesting. It actually started around 2009. So it was, I want to say roughly a little earlier than us before they really, so around 2012 is when they really had like a fully like good transition to it. And you gotta like keep in mind, bro, around 2012, that was like what, 6th grade for us. We were really young. We had our phones, bro, but they weren't handing us technology in the classrooms. Anyway, guys, so this is pretty much about reclaiming the classroom and what some of these European countries are doing. Let's talk the numbers. You guys know I love always talking about the numbers. So Europe is suddenly banning technology in the classroom. It's not coming out of nowhere. It's being driven by the cold, hard data using OECD PISA. If you don't know what those are down there in the bottom. Tracking data, they found a statistical link between all digital classrooms and increasingly poor student performance. If you take a look at these charts over here with me, Don, do you notice anything about these?
It's going down.
And these are actually countries who have always ranked around the top 25.
Especially Sweden.
And I want you to take a very close look at Sweden's line right here and just look around 2012, right? So remember, I told you 2009 is when they started. So you can see around 2012, the numbers had already gone down a pretty significant amount here, around 515. We go over to 2015, it's sitting around 492. Now we can see that it sort of comes back up to those pre-levels, and then it drops right back down. And we have to remember that right here in this early 2020 area, we saw even worse performance. Now we're looking at the Netherlands and Denmark as well. You see that they all saw a really significant dip right around this pandemic area time. This is when classrooms were actually telling people to stay home. We're going to do all digital learning. And you can see that this decline has been going on for years, guys. This is a decade of data that we're looking at right here. So if you take a look at this graphic right here, the Karolinska Institute is actually the institute that rewards the Nobel Prizes in medicine and its 1 degree of science. Now, as you can see, at first, we were having, in the past, we wanted this digital push, hey, because that's the way that the future is going. But right now, we want to see that return to more analog style, actually writing, reading the books that way, because we have actually seen that these digital tools are actually not enhancing learning, but they're impairing learning. Now that's very interesting because when I was younger, I always would assume that, oh man, I can't wait for a future to where everything's digital. Man, we don't want to have to use this old ass textbook that's been used over tons of thousands, have to carry these things around. Now, what do you think about this, Don?
What I think is that technology has the opportunity to be advanced, but when you overload, you end up with a state of losing focus. And I think that's the biggest issue here, probably, is that students can't focus because their attention is being dragged in so many different ways in so many different areas with crazy, wild graphics and screens. And the kids just don't have it in them to sit and soak up information.
You know, one of the things that I found the most interesting during this entire period was that they actually saw the attention span for their students significantly decrease. So their cognitive focus has decreased. And now what I was most interested about was the cognitive focus has decreased and their cognitive capacity is remaining dormant because we're not activating certain neurons that actually writing on pen and paper will activate for us, right? And that writing versus typing or just using a stylus on a tablet leads to better retention over time.
Dude, I'm not gonna lie. You remember those blocks we had in math class where it's like a block is equal to 1 and then a stack would be 10 and then a big brick would be 100?
Yeah.
You have to do. If it weren't for things like that, tangible items, so I could conceptualize the basics of math, I'm not sure the math that I'm learning today would even be possible. And I think that might be another problem students are running into is all this information might be true, but how do I know it to be true rather than just blindly memorizing statements and statements and statements? And then you ask me a question that I've never heard the answer to. I don't have the creativity to try to think about the answer because none of the shit that I already learned actually makes sense to me because they've just been on a fucking screen.
Now, another interesting thing that I wanted to bring up to you, Don, in a previous video that I was actually watching over this, one of the students, he was a grade schooler. So the equivalent to that audience would be roughly elementary, extremely early middle school. This kid was actually mentioning for himself that he thought it was better for him to retain because there were more examples and better explanations in the textbooks, as well as having to read it themselves versus before to where they were having just a robot, just a narrator read it out loud to the entire class. And now I believe this is going to lead to better reading comprehension overall. Now let's move on into Sweden in specific, guys.
Am I reading this right?
Yes. Yes, sir. So over here in Sweden, Sweden has actually been known to rank within the top 20 for years, guys. I mean, over well 2 decades. Sweden, Denmark, Switzerland, guys, are countries who have actually, believe it or not, despite us having some of the world's biggest tech companies, they have excelled extremely better in their push towards a more technological society was actually a lot faster and more efficient than ours. However, the results are in, and god damn, we don't want that baby. Now, guys, the data revealed that nearly 25%, I mean, that's a fucking quarter, of 15 to 16-year-olds could no longer attain a basic level of reading comprehension. Who the fuck would have thought? And why do we think that we are calling this the fucking brain rot generation now? I mean, like, holy fuck, we had memes and shit, but damn, we didn't have just the endless scrolling on end and end. And we have to remember, guys, that these are the kids who are being raised with technology already in place. Don and Don over here, we were raised to a generation to where we were coming up with the new advancements, but we still had VHS tapes. We saw the DVRs. We saw the box TVs. We saw a lot. Look, guys, as far as technology, it's come a long way for us. And if you're a little bit of a younger audience in high school or younger, you guys got it made. I mean, but look at what it's costing you. Anytime I talk to a younger person today, and guys, I'm not downing on anybody at all. I just often question what's going on in schools. What are the dynamics? What are the teacher dynamics with this technology? Was it being implemented correctly, right? It's a tool, not a person. Now, guys, this is just a trend. Sweden scores reached an all-time low after 2012. Now, remember, went into 2009 and it continued declining, even into the mid 2020s. Actually, and this actually mirrored the timeline of its long-term plan to replace textbooks with digital screens. So, and I should have actually got a graphic for this. I apologize ahead of time. If we were to take the time of when they started digitizing the classrooms, and by that period, you could actually see the scores drop as more digitization happened across the country. Now, guys, this isn't the only country that we're going to be talking about today. We also have the Netherlands. They saw a period of severe national score drops. Now, the metrics the countries used was suffering a 10 to 15% decline in focus and cognitive capacity. Okay? Now, I want to focus on that word capacity, guys. It's not what you know, it's what you're capable of knowing, right? So we're not activating. There's obviously something that's showing that too much screen time is coming at the detriment of the young generation. So when students were in these environments where they were saturated with a lot of technology, I remember some of my classrooms, we had a whiteboard. We didn't have no smart board. We had, hell, actually, I think I remember one of my classes having a chalkboard. I mean, I know it sounds crazy. I know I'm kind of, putting my age out there, but Don, I mean, just the difference between how we're learning or how we were learning versus today's generation of learning is just so vastly different. Um, it even makes me wonder if they're getting enough hands-on time to really put these into real-world applications versus just having examples given to them on a screen.
It also makes me wonder if they're speaking enough, if they're collaborating enough, or if this is a teacher's excuse to be lazy. Click to assign them some work, give them an assignment, and they do it silently without collaborating with peers, without saying the answer out loud to a teacher and having the embarrassment of getting it wrong, therefore jogging it in your memory a lot better because you're embarrassed about getting it wrong. You're never going to forget that when it comes test day. Is there any more popcorn reading? Is there any more students thinking about things together? And like, I don't see the technology itself just being the sole problem. I feel like the manner in which we teach has probably just gotten lazy as a result of that. And maybe, I know it's a huge problem in America, but maybe it's also due to the fact that we don't pay teachers enough.
Didn't look up the numbers for how well teachers are being paid over there in Europe, but what we did find out, Don, was that out of 317 secondary schools that eliminated devices, they actually saw an immediate reversal, with schools reporting a 75% increase in focus, with 33% of schools reporting immediate jumps in academic test performance. Now, this is actually very interesting to me because a lot of these things that I was reading goes on to actually show guys that there was an even better jump in the students who were struggling even more. So the students who, I guess who you want to say are less fortunate of coming from better financial backgrounds, they actually saw better jumps in their test scores once these bans were implemented, because it put them back on a fair playing ground. And this goes to my next one. I like to call this the 15% disadvantage gap. Okay, guys, so this was what we'll call them low achievers, and I'm going to really try to call them poor. So studies found that there was a 6% increase in test scores for schools that had introduced a ban. However, for low achieving students, they saw better outcomes of up to 15% as a result of the cell phone ban, sort of proving something else to policymakers in Europe, that there was an inequality gap already because some students were coming from backgrounds where technology were already in homes more efficiently. They had a lot more experience coming up with technology. So
Okay.
not only these poor students have a disadvantage of working around technology or knowing how to troubleshoot technology when things went awry, but when we put them back on an even playing field, we now see that these students who not only were having their scores suffer because of the technology, but were struggling because of their illiteracy with technology, they saw better improved test scores to put them back on a more even playing field. So guys, I do have my call to action. I think since self-regulation is almost a foreign concept to school-age children, it's time to put down the screens, pick back up textbooks, and invest in more distraction-free alternatives for our students. Uh, for example, if you look at this graphic right here, I have right beside it, guys. I mean, some of these kids are just they're naturally gifted. They're gonna be naturally ahead of their peers, but they're gonna reach an obstacle that they don't know how to navigate because they've been sitting in front of a screen the entire time. They haven't gotten proper troubleshooting skills because every device nowadays, when something goes wrong, it has a FAQ. It has something that troubleshoots the issues for you. It tells you every step of what to do to get it right. And now, yes, I feel like these are necessary things, but I mean, come on, Don. Just because we were raised into technology versus, or not necessarily, we were raised with technology rather than being raised into technology, we had a lot of time of just fucking around on these devices, just doing random shit, and us learning by ourselves versus these kids, like, through our fuck ups, we're telling them how to fix items, right? There's already a YouTube video out there that's telling you how to fix everything, right? The information's out there, but if we can't tell these kids how to apply that information in better ways rather than just relying on their screen and their devices, they're going to be a failed adult. They're going to
And that's
have.
another that's another topic that goes into your meme here is not learning how to overcome challenges. Everything is so easy. And it started with Google and then YouTube and now it's AI. But you also see it in video games. I mean, the video games that are advertised to children are basically made to where you cannot fail. They want to protect your feelings. Maybe students are passing grades that they shouldn't really pass, and the teachers are afraid to fail them. Um, you see, it's a huge culture right now to just not accept that anybody is wrong about anything, and to really soft parent into baby kids far more than they should be. And these kids are growing up having never been told no, having never been told you're wrong, having never been told get better or go do some learning, or like you said, go do some troubleshooting. It's always you're never at fault, and therefore they don't have to ever use their brain critically.
And that's very interesting that you say that. So that actually brings me into what can we do? Um, I say, hey, if you notice that your kid and guys, this is also in America. I looked it up. This was just not a European issue. This is actually the only difference with America is that we're not trying to reverse course. We're full steam ahead. We're full steam ahead. I mean, guys, once we make a fucking horrible decision, we're gonna double down on it about 5 or 6 times, and hey, it's gonna pan out some way, but we're gonna narrate the story to make it look like we're in the good and we're in the green every single time. That's just how America does it. So my opinion is if we want to reverse plunging test scores, we have to protect the cognitive capability, not the skill, guys, the capability of students, and close the gap for struggling students. So I say we need to follow the data. And with that data, we need to use it to determine and systematically replace anything unnecessary. Tablets and screens with textbooks that have shown to boost memory and retention. Oh, wow. Huge typo right here for me, huh? Bringing back pencil and paper to activate those parts of our brain that would remain dormant otherwise. Lastly, if you wish, be an advocate. Support your local legislation regarding these matters. Support your teachers. If there is any sort of local legislation that is going to increase the pay, increase the resources that are going to the teachers, also make sure to pay attention to what you're voting for, because there was very recently, I did see some legislation actually going on in Georgia of the United States of America, to where they were trying to pass some legislation to where it would put funding in other areas, but it would take funding away from teachers and schools. And that's just very ass backwards. Everybody called it out. It didn't pass. But they try to sneak shit in there like that into your legislation. So please just don't blindly vote. Please actually look up what the policies that they're trying to pass are. Just don't believe what your local politicians are telling you. This also goes for Europe. This goes for America. This goes for wherever you are. Please just be active. Actually try to be active. If you have your own kids, try to be active with them as well. Read to them. Help them write. Help them with their penmanship. And just don't allow them to learn and figure it out on their own. Of course, we had parents back in the day to where, honestly, we all probably know the one person who had to have their mother say, Johnny had 3 apples and he ate 1. How many would he have left? And they still got it wrong a ton of times. But look, guys, this is the thing. How much worse would that kid have done in school if their mom wasn't sitting there getting frustrated trying to get them to get the right answer?
Yeah.
So, honestly, guys, we may be getting older and we may no longer be the youth, but trust me, one day they will affect us when we are older and we are out of commission and we are just hanging on to our last bit of straws of breath and trying to live a peaceful life. Who fucking knows? We don't want dumbasses running the country. We already have dumbasses running the country. We don't need to make it even worse. Guys, if we look at this, and I really want to cut this brief and short, Department of Education got shut down by Trump. What do we think that that's going to be the betterment for? Not for the youth. Like I said, we can talk about it all day, but at the end of the day, just try to support your local legislation, support your local teachers, and of course, be active in the youth within your society. This is Don, signing out.
And I'm done.
Signing out as well.
Yeah, that's what we're doing.